Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. On each episode, we interview recovering addicts and learn their story with addiction. Through exploring personal journeys, we get a glimpse of the depths addicts fall to and their path in recovery. We hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. I'm Kevin, I'm an addict. And with me is co-host
Josh, I am an addict.
Josh, addict. And we are now interviewing one of our first co-hosts. This is?
My name is Lindsey, and I am an addict.
All right. So, just a little bit of history and background. Lindsey and I had a conversation years ago about someday doing a podcast about something. And we wanted to do it about recovery, some based. And completely separate from that, Josh and I had a conversation not too long after that, and he said, I want to do a podcast. And I said, hey, that's funny. Lindsey and I were talking about doing a podcast, and so that's how this whole thing started with the three of us. Lindsey has since moved away, and he's not available to be here all the time to be a host, and so he's visiting this time, and we wanted to make sure that we got him in on a podcast, so we're going to interview Lindsey.
I'm excited.
We are too.
Lindsey, how have you enjoyed the move so far?
The move, it's been great. It's been good.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. I'll start with the cons. The cons are, I would say it's more like there's pros within the cons, and let me explain that. It was tough to leave the core group that I've established here in the great state of California.
Core group of
friends, support group,
friends in the program.
I originally come from Seattle, so I made that transition early on in my recovery, and when I came to California, I really felt that I found my tribe, my people.
Did you have a group in Seattle?
Yeah, I had a group, not quite as big as I would say.
Yeah.
But I was born and raised in Seattle, so a lot of my support group wasn't necessarily in recovery.
Oh, okay.
But moving here, that became 100% of my support group. I don't think I know any using addicts in California as far as like association or considered part of my support group. So the one pro of moving to New Hampshire, or actually let me go back. The one con to moving to New Hampshire was having to reestablish what I had already created in California.
Right. So you had to get a whole new support group.
100%. Treated myself as a newcomer all over again. I remember going into my first meeting and asking for a phone list. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say there's pros to the cons is because of the fact that I knew exactly what I needed to do.
Kick the door in.
I had to kick in the door, let people know who I am, what I'm about. And in that process, I was able to establish rather quickly a solid support group of recovering addicts that I knew I could count on.
Broader the base.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's pretty cool.
I'll never forget one of the first meetings in New Hampshire where I currently live. I remember walking in, and it was a small group. A lot of the groups out there are pretty small because it's so sparse. Not a lot of meetings. The meetings that are there are pretty solid though. And I walk in and I hear somebody oversaid like, "Oh man, our chairperson canceled on us today." And I was like, "Hey, if you need somebody to share, I'd be happy to." and she thought I was a newcomer, like legit a newcomer. And she was like, no, don't worry. No, it's okay. Well, I'll figure something out. And I was like, hey, no problem at all. And it was so funny because early when I moved there, they'd asked me to speak at a convention. And the next time I saw that person,
Yeah.
I was speaking at a convention, and she came up to me and was like, oh my God, I thought you had like 0 days clean when you asked to share. And I was
hilarious.
like, oh, it's okay.
Cool.
But yeah.
It's cool that you had the experience of going from Seattle to California and a successful
Transition.
building a new support group in a new area and doing all that stuff, and you were able to duplicate it when you went out east, and because a lot of people don't make that transition to a new area successfully. Myself as a good example. Yeah.
Well, so
It's easy to pick apart a different area. Like, you guys do it differently. I don't want to, or I don't want to get uncomfortable again or whatever,
100%. And the thing is, I think what I learned the most from that first transition from Seattle to California, is my story has relapse in it. And I was introduced to NA by one of my best friends. I think it was like 2010, 2011, and I'll never forget in that time. I didn't have a lot of time, and
How much time do you got?
8 years. So my clean date's 9/19/2015.
So I'm just curious, why would you say I don't have a lot of time?
No, at that point in California.
Okay.
In California,
How much time did you have when you got to California?
like 9 months.
Oh.
Like,
Okay.
you mean back up. Are you talking about this time in California or where I got introduced to NA in California?
Yeah, well, no, you're right. When you got introduced.
So when I got introduced back in 2011, and I thought, I'm going to go be a DJ in Lake Havasu City, and I'm going to be able to stay clean.
What a great decision.
Dude, it was
Tight.
by far the worst decision I ever made. And I remember...
Let me ask you. So that decision, did you run it by a sponsor?
I didn't run it by anybody.
No support group?
And that's the point. That's the point I'm making, is that I go make this demographic change,
And geographic. correct?
geographic. That's what I meant to say is a geographic change. Everybody, actually, I didn't run it by my support group, but my support group was all like, "That's a dumb fucking idea, Lindsey. You shouldn't do that." And I was like, "I'll be fine."
Yeah, of course.
And
Our best thinking.
100%. And I remember within like 48 hours, I was already looking for Brown. I was already like
Brown?
heroin.
Okay.
Like,
For those that don't know.
yeah. I was already looking for like, I DJ my first show and somebody's like, "You want some Molly?" And I was like, "Well,
I sure
okay.
do."
Yeah, you don't say. And I remember looking for my first meeting, and I drove by it. This was like, I was there for the first like 15 hours. I drove
Lake Havasu?
in Lake Havasu, and I remember being like, "Yeah, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to go there."
So,
and
so Seattle is where it started, though.
my
That's
addiction
where your addiction started.
originally, yeah, 100%, 100%. Started using in Lake Havasu, and the reason I say all this is because when I came back into the rooms in 2015, I knew that I had learned some things from that relapse. One of which was use the phone list, get a sponsor, find a support group, and do the things that I had originally been told to do, but thought I could outsmart it or thought I was bigger than the disease. And so when I came back around this time, I went and did everything opposite of what I originally did in that first time of recovery.
So you did what was suggested.
100% did what was suggested to me.
So you remember when we first started this, we talked about like the format of what we wanted, and we were excited because in normal meetings we don't talk about the mess, right? And we want to hear some like horror stories. So I know we've talked about it and you've been thinking about it, and so like let's just start off with that one story. Like the one.
The one.
I know there's many, but this is like the depths of your addiction.
Yeah. Fuck, there's so many. I can tell you about
What's the bottom? What's the worst bottom you hit?
the worst bottom I hit was living in a van down by the river. No,
Sounds nice.
Literally, I lived in my van for a while, and I was so in love with this van. Like, it was a 1976 Ford E150. Like, it was like, to me, it was a classic van.
Was it all decked out to live by the river, like bed in the back?
Not at all. Not at all. Like, it was like straight up the A-team from the outside, but on the inside it was just like wood panels, but not like finished wood panels, like plywood wood panels. Like, but this thing was I cherish this thing because I called it my classic van. Everybody else was like, that's a rape van. And I was like, no, it's not. No, I'd have to I'd defend my van.
Did you have a mattress in it?
No, I didn't. I would just use my clothes bag as my pillow, and I would just scoot around in my van.
Yeah, that doesn't sound as fun.
I mean, honestly, in my active addiction, I try to turn everything into an adventure. Everything. Like, even in the worst parts of my addiction, I would always tell myself it could be worse. It could be worse, you know?
So it's almost justifying that
denial.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Or
Just
denial,
complete denial.
Yeah.
You know? And
I did the same thing.
And the denial was always like being able to
this isn't the bottom yet.
Yeah, this isn't the bottom yet. Yeah, like, and so let's think about a tough story.
Well,
you know,
I mean, typical stuff for a lot of people is like they stole money from their parents or their brothers and sisters, or they ripped off their grandma, or they were living under a bridge.
Yeah,
or in a
no,
van
They
down by
lost their mind in the middle of the woods by themselves.
no, that's
yeah.
that's a great one. So
That's his story.
I have so many, but so I guess one of the ones that were close to the end for me. I was dating my now wife. And she hadn't known that I was using. I was a closet user.
What were you using?
Fentanyl.
In what form were you using it?
Smoking it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was smoking
Foil?
it. Foil. Yep. Using the old foil.
Like the patches?
No, they were they called them pressies. So they were like fake Perk 30s.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
But they were just fentanyl pressies, they called them. Straight from Mexico. But
Any fear of dying? Was
all
that
the
a
time.
thing?
All the time.
But
Like
you
that.
still did it.
Yeah, I still did it. Like, that was like my goal. My goal was like, how close to the edge can I get? Like, how quick
OD
can I
and come
fall
back?
asleep? Yeah, how quick can I fall asleep and still wake up?
So,
you know?
OD and
Yeah,
come back. Yeah.
try to overdose and come back every time. You know, luckily I've never been Narcaned. I'll put that out there right now. I've never been Narcaned. I've never used needles. My thing was either smoking it or putting up my nose. That was my thing. But towards the end, I'll tell this story because this one it let me know like it's time to change. So I was dating my now wife, and she wanted some ice cream, and she lived in an apartment in a very nice part of Seattle, Queen Anne. And the apartment was like three stories high, and it overlooked like the little part of the city, and you could literally see the grocery store or the corner store. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna run to 7-Eleven real quick, and I'm gonna go get us some ice cream. And I left knowing that I wasn't stopping at 7-Eleven. But instead, I drove about an hour and a half to my dealer's house, which is on like about 30 miles on the other side of Seattle. And he wasn't there at the time. My my girlfriend at the time, she calls me. She's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "They didn't have any ice cream at the 7-Eleven. Like, they didn't have your flavor."
Oh.
And I was like, "I'm looking everywhere for it." And I'll never forget, because I left at around 8:30 that evening. I didn't come back to her house until like 4:00 in the morning.
Fuck yeah, without ice cream.
With it, the thing is no ice cream. But I just was like, I couldn't find it. I don't even know if they make it anymore. Like, they just didn't have it. And
she's like, I walked to 7-Eleven and bought it.
Yeah, pretty much. But that was like one of those times where I realized that, like, I'm just lying over some bullshit. Like, I'm just lying over some stupid shit.
So 6 hours searching for ice cream.
Yeah, 6 hours searching for ice cream. And the entire time, all I was doing is sitting in my dealer's house, smoking fentanyl, playing magic cards. Like, it was weird. Like, my dealer at the time was like kind of nerdy, but he also was like Colombian. Like, and we would like get high and play magic cards like two little kids.
Dude, it's so crazy to think about, like, what you went through to get to where you are, like your relative perspective, and then like what somebody else might go through to get to like addicts in recovery.
Yeah.
Like, you were able to grasp it in a way that didn't require like extreme
prison.
Yeah, chaos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, your chaos and this person's chaos, it's relative. However, the journey is so fucking different. It's such a trip.
And, you know, what's funny is when people ask, like, have I been to jail? Yes, I've been to jail. And, you know, when you're in the rooms, you hear these like grandiose stories of how people ended up in jail. Like, I robbed a bank, or, you know, breaking and entering, or like something that's just like out of this world, like murder, like narcotic sales, whatever it may be. One of the times I went to jail, I was wake surfing. I was back from college on spring break, had a warrant out for my arrest that I didn't know about. And we were going under a bridge. And when you're on a boat driving under a bridge, you have to go like less than 5 miles per hour to not throw a wake. And we were going like maybe 9 miles an hour, like not that fast. And I just got off my wakeboard. I'm still sitting on the back of the boat, taking the board off, taking the bindings off, and the fucking boat police pull up, like lights on and everything.
Boat police.
And like, yeah, like not even joking. They roll up like the boat police. Long story short, I went to fucking jail in a wetsuit.
Nice.
Like, the thing is like the county jail in Seattle is like straight up downtown Seattle. Where I got pulled over was in like Bellevue, which is like an affluent area that's like where like Microsoft is, which is where like Bill Gates lives. And so I go to jail. I'm wearing flip-flops, board shorts, and like a full wetsuit. And I'll never forget, I was in jail for like 3 or 4 days. And I get out of jail in downtown Seattle, like in the streets, like right in on like the trap of Seattle. And it was I looked like fucking Scuba Steve coming out of jail in a fucking wetsuit, because I'm in like a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Wearing a fucking wetsuit, looking like Scuba Steve. I don't have shoes. Like, I'm just sitting there barefoot. I look like the fucking crackhead that is supposed to be there. And the funniest part was I was actually wakeboarding, like,
yeah, I get it.
Like 3 days earlier. Like,
when you say trap, is that the ghetto?
The ghetto, yeah. Like, just the seedy part of town.
Yeah.
You know, like most street blocks around a jail are never nice.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you think about all the county jails you've seen, the surrounding area is not like glamorous at all.
So that's kind of like, it was at the dirtiest depths of degradation.
No, it wasn't. I think one of the dirtiest was went to a music festival.
Oh, you were in the music scene, huh?
I did. I worked. I was actually attending this festival though. What's funny is I was living in Seattle, and the festival was in Lake Tahoe for New Year's.
Cool.
And I probably brought like 30 pressies with me and a bunch of Molly. And I remember being in the show. It's like 7 degrees out, wearing like a snow jacket.
And you don't give a fuck because you're on Molly and
yeah,
pressies.
dude, I am fucked up beyond.
Sweating like a motherfucker in negative degree temperature.
I look like I just got out of the sauna, dude. I'm like, I need to take it off.
Yeah.
Anyways, like, obviously I couldn't like just do it like in the wide open. And there was no like structural buildings. Everything was like a porta potty. That was like the bathroom situation.
Yeah.
And it was pitch dark. So there's no lights in the bathroom. And I'll never forget, I put the toilet seat down and I just fucking grabbed all the sanitizer and just wiped the fucking toilet, like the toilet lid. And I just started crushing up lines on the porta potty fucking. And I just sat in there for probably...
Dude, the sanitizer's a nice touch. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't have even sanitized it.
Well, dude, I knew I was like in a shitter already and I couldn't even see.
Hey.
Like, so I just fucking... I cleaned up my little fucking area and I sat in that fucking porta potty for probably an hour and a half.
Just nodding out.
Just fucking nodding out. And the lighting coming into the porta potty because like the lasers.
It was just beautiful.
I had my own fucking light show. I could take a piss if I needed to. Like I just sat in there.
Not so bad after you adjust to it.
After a while, like I started unrolling the toilet paper to make a little seat on the ground, like where most people would be standing. And I just sat at the fucking porta potty and made it my little fucking shop.
Hey, you know what? You're not the first person that we've interviewed that spent quite a bit of time in a porta potty at a concert.
Really?
Yeah,
dude.
There must be a theme.
Dude, addicts on a job site and the construction trade, it gets fucking weird, dude.
Yeah.
People in there trying to find veins for half of their fucking shift.
Yeah.
Their shift.
Seriously, dude. They just come out, their clothes are all stuck to them, they're all sweaty, fucking peeling off their shirt and shit.
Oh, man. But anyways, that same festival. So this is right before I get clean. I'll never forget. I'm at this festival. I am fucking rolling at this point, and I start like when I'm high, like I'm a pretty social person naturally, but when I'm high, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna talk to 100 people, and they're gonna become my best friends by the end of the night.
Whoa.
You're the annoying. Hey,
Dude, what's up, dude? Like, fuck, let's hang out, man. Let me buy you a drink. That's another thing. I never, ever drank when I was high.
All right.
There was a fear of being like, if I drink, I'm going to die. I can do all the drugs in the world, but if I drink, I'm going to die. Weird. So anyways, I'm walking around this festival.
Alcohol and opiates will do that, though.
Yeah, there was like a deep-rooted fear there. So I'm walking around this festival, and I run into this kid. He's like that same type A personality, and we start chopping it up. And he's like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from Seattle." He's like, "I'm from Seattle, man." And I was like,
do some Molly?
No. He goes, I go, "Oh, dude, right on. What do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in school." He ends up going to the same college as my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and he so happens that he buys weed from my girlfriend roommate. And I was like, "Oh, you know that girl? That's my girlfriend's roommate." Anyways, this is when my girlfriend didn't know at the time that I did drugs at all. Like she knew I smoked weed, sold weed. She knew I sold weed and that was like my income, but never knew that I ever did drugs. Anyways, he goes, "Let's take a picture." And in my Molly state of mind, I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Like, that's so awesome. Let's send it to them. Anyways, we take this picture. He hits send. And after about 5 minutes, it finally clicked. Oh, shit. My girlfriend doesn't know I do drugs. I go up to him and I go, let me see that picture you sent. And I look at it. I'm already tripping balls. Like, the picture itself is like waving around. Like, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. Literally probably 3 or 4 minutes later, she's like, it looks like you're having, like, she calls me and she's like, it looks like you're having a good time. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm high. Fuck. I'm fucked up. Dude, my eyes were like the size of fucking saucers, like sweat pouring down my face, like in this picture, just that Molly smile where it looks like you've just been like chewing on pencils, like and
so that's how she found out.
Yeah, that's how she found out, was like,
and that's right before you got clean.
That was right before I got clean.
How does getting clean look like? What did that happen?
Getting clean for me, you know, I wasn't expecting it. I did not expect it. It had crossed my mind. You know, as my relationship with my now wife got more serious, the idea had started crossing my mind.
Did you know people that were clean?
No, not at this point. Like, I disassociated with recovery in general. You know, I hung out with my girlfriend, sold drugs, and only had a couple using friends, and we all kept that secret pretty tight. But what got me clean was my best friend in Seattle. We've known each other since the day we were born. I lived across the street from the house that he was born in. I'm about 9 months older than him, so I've literally known him since he was born. And we used together. We were best friends. We grew up, you know, riding bikes. You know, when I was without a home, his family would always take me in, give me a place to sleep,
right,
take care of me. And then he became a drug addict, and our using styles just went in different directions. And you know, I smoked everything off tinfoil, and he got to the point where he was like shooting in his neck, and I was like, dude, you're gonna blow up my spot because you're obvious and I'm a closet. If I hang out with you, like, you're gonna blow up the good thing I have going, and your parents are gonna kick me out of your house if I start using with you. And so we kind of went our separate ways. And I hadn't talked to him for a few months. And one day, I remember exactly where I was. I was driving in my van, and I get a phone call. And he goes, hey, man, how's it going? I was like, good. And his voice didn't sound like it had for like the last 5 years.
Didn't sound like he was high.
Yeah, it didn't sound like he was high.
Sounds like he wasn't doing opiates.
Yeah, exactly. You know that raspy voice that when people are doing opiates, it almost talks like that.
Alcohol and opiates seem to do that almost immediately. Yeah.
Like, you can just tell. And he sounded normal. He sounded like there was a pep in his step that wasn't created by an opiate or crack or meth.
Gotcha.
And he goes, hey, man, how's it going? And I go, I'm good, man. How are you? He's like, man, life is good. And I was like, yeah, tell me more. And he goes, dude, I just got out of rehab, and I'm celebrating 60 days next week. Do you want to come with me? And I instantly go, shut the fuck up, dude. You're not clean. There's no way. No shot. You're clean.
I remember those people.
And I just didn't believe him.
Yeah.
I didn't believe an addict like him, because I remember his mom and I, you know, a couple years prior, we're talking about, what are we going to do when Brian overdoses and dies? What are we going to do?
While you were smoking fentanyl in the closet? Because
they had no idea. You know, I kept my game tight, like, up until the end, like, where it became more obvious. But I remember talking to his mom, talking about what would I write in his obituary? What would I?
So he called you and he was clean.
He called me and
He found his bottom. He
found his bottom.
streamlining for that bottom.
yeah, he found his bottom and he was going straight towards it. And when I got that call, I just remember I started crying because he thought that I was clean. He thought like,
Why did he think you were clean?
because I kept a very low key, like it didn't become obvious to people.
Did he think you were clean, or did he think that you just didn't get loaded?
Well, as I had mentioned before, he remembered when I got clean in California.
Right, so he still thought you were still clean.
He just thought that maybe I smoked weed, or maybe I wasn't like the addict,
Gotcha.
that I ended up, realizing that I am. And so he goes, "Hey man, I'm celebrating 60 days. Do you want to come celebrate with me?" And I go, "Whoa, you're serious?" He was like, "Yeah, man, I want you to come. I want you to come watch me get my key tag." And I was like, "Give me a week." And like he was celebrating next week, and I was like, "I'll be there in a week." And I remember that night, I got so high, fucking smoked through all my shit, and for the next 6 days, I had a single strip of Suboxone. And I remember I cut that thing into like fucking 16 tiny little slices, like itty bitty slices. And like every like 4 hours, I would put it in my mouth. And I'll never forget, I showed up to that meeting because for some reason I thought at that time, like I couldn't show up to a meeting high. For some reason, there was like this thing in me. If I'm going to show up to a meeting, I have to already be clean. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Well,
if you're
you didn't
listening to
know.
this podcast, fucking show up.
Yeah.
We don't care how tore up from the floor up you are. Just show up. It doesn't matter. We're going to love you. Anyways, I show up to this meeting. It's in the dingy basement of Seattle. It's one of the longest lasting meetings in all of Seattle. And I remember it was a circle. And I went and isolated across from my friend because my friend like has 60 days and I'm already like, he's already hanging out with the old timers. He has his like core group. He is doing his thing. And he sits over there and I sit over here and I was like, I'm going to, this is his thing. I'm just here to support. And,
Yeah.
and when they came around the room, is there anybody here within their first 30 days? And I raised my hand and my name's Lindsey. I'm an addict. And for some reason it was in my head that I had to be clean in order to show up to this meeting. And anyways, I show up to this meeting, obviously 9/19/2015. And
This is in Seattle.
this is in Seattle, the oldest meeting in Seattle. It's called Back to Life. And I remember sitting in it was a big circle meeting. And I remember sitting on the opposite side of my friend. He was hanging out with all the old timers, doing his thing. And I just didn't feel part of, I was here to support him. And in that, I remember, they say, is there anybody here within their first 30 days or a desire to stop using? And I remember raising my hand and being like, hi, my name is Lindsey. I'm an addict. And at that moment, I hadn't been sure. I just knew I didn't want to use anymore. Luckily, I just, weaned myself off with an MAT over the last week. And, I had that.
Wait, with a what?
Medically assisted treatment,
Yes.
Suboxone.
Yep. So just weaned myself off of the Suboxone and I had that moment of clarity. So I raised my hand and I go, my name's Lindsey. I'm an addict. And a few moments later, I remember this old timer. He looks at me and goes, welcome. You're the most important person in the room. And right then,
Did you believe him?
yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's tight.
And I'd heard it before. I'd heard that phrase. I've heard that cliche. You're the most important person in the room.
I remember I heard that, and I'm like, man, fuck you.
Well, that's what's funny is at first there was some pride and ego. Like, it's about time somebody recognizes it. Like, yeah, you're right. I am the most important person here.
Just a point of interest here. Ever since I've known Lindsey, and when he shares at a meeting, he says that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
He always says.
Yeah, it's interesting what sticks for people and then how they can carry that on.
Yeah.
100%.
Like some people, it's the hug, you know, and they are like really adamant about giving a good hug when somebody shows up.
Yeah. Like, and I remember exactly what I was wearing that day. I was wearing a pair of like
Fishnet stockings.
No, it was a pair of like
No?
brown, like the khaki. Yeah. No, I wasn't into weird stuff, man.
That's not weird.
I mean, teach their own.
Yeah,
teach their
different.
own. But I was wearing a pair of like khaki Dickies pants. I was wearing a black Dickies t-shirt
Okay.
and a pair of welding boots.
All right.
Going to work.
Does your clothes, is that significant to you? What
Yeah,
you were wearing?
yes, it is significant to me because I didn't have a job and I'm not a welder.
Okay. and you're talking about fishnet stockings being weird, and here you are.
Good point.
In
good
a costume.
No, good point. And I just remember like just thinking to myself, I've been lying to myself. You know, earlier on in this conversation, I've always been able to say everything's okay.
Did you wear the welding boots because you wanted people to think that you had a welding job?
Yeah, it was like this idea
So it was
that
a
like
costume.
it was a costume, dude. It was like all part of my mask. Like it was all part of my mask. Like
My name's Lindsey. I work.
yeah, and I was just tore up, man. I was tore up. Like all my clothes should have been thrown away, you know, and I just wasn't at a good place in life. And for some reason, you know, looking back on it, I'm like, how the fuck did I have a girlfriend? How the fuck was I in a relationship? Like I'm looking at myself right now in the back of my head being like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Dude, I still do that. I still do that shit. I was with my dad yesterday, not to get too far off subject, but I've done a lot of work and my life is really fucking good. And I'm like I'm driving with my dad and like I scheduled an appointment. It was 1:40. I scheduled an appointment at 2:15 to go do a job walk. And by 2:10, I was driving to a completely different city to go look at a Jeep. And I got a phone call like, hey man, when are you going to be here? It's 2:17, just checking on you. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. Like I just float. Like how do I even function?
Yeah.
Like there's no, like I just float. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't even know how the fuck how am I even doing any of this?
100%, man. 100%. And so, yeah,
That's how you got clean.
that's my introduction to how I stuck around.
So when you got here now, this time, and I understand like a lot of people go, well, this time around, I'm going to try something new or whatever that change is. From my experience over the years, I've found that when people say this time around, it always has some kind of connotation for them that they failed the last time. I don't know if that's your story.
Can you say that again?
That when people have a relapse and they get clean again and they say this time around I'm going to change this and do that, and their speech leads one to believe that there is a failure in their past that they're trying to do better or correct. And my experience is that's not a failure. Does that ring true for you? That it got you to where you're at? If you didn't have
It's just
that
part of the journey.
Yeah, if you didn't have that early introduction to Narcotics Anonymous, would you even know where to go?
Yeah, that's just it. So,
It's part of your journey. Thank God you made it back.
Yeah.
and you know, as I had mentioned, I knew what I needed to do because when I was using, I knew that I didn't want to keep using.
Yeah.
I used uncontrollably. I used outside my own will. Like from that relapse that I had gone through and stuck around, for a total of like 4 years, every single day I'd get high and be like, man, if I ever am able to make it back, here's what I'm going to do differently.
Yeah, but did you believe when you finally got clean again?
Yeah.
Did you believe that relapse was a failure? Or
No, I think it was learned opportunities.
Perfect.
Like
It's exactly what you needed. It's what had to
yeah,
happen.
like because of the fact for the 4 years, I created my map of what it's going to look like when I finally get clean.
Right on.
So but it is based off what I missed the first time around. So it's
Yeah.
not a failure. It's that these are the things that I did not do previously that I know if I make it back or when I make it back or, this is what I would do differently.
That was my point, is that you don't carry that relapse around as baggage.
No, not at all. Actually, I actually look at it as like just opportunity,
Yeah.
just new
That's
opportunity.
perfect. So the first time, did you work the steps and all that stuff? Did you do a 4-step?
No.
So you hadn't worked any steps the first time you were in narcotics.
It's taken me a long time to get through that 4-step.
Okay. So
what step are you on right now, and how many rounds have you done?
Just finished my 4-step.
On your first round?
Yep.
Oh shit!
Yep. First four. It's taken me time.
you mean like, oh shit, that's perfect. That's exactly where you're supposed to be.
No, what I mean by
He's
that
like,
is
no, like,
not
what
at
the
all.
fuck?
No, not at all. No judgment in it at all. Just like, I know you on a relatively personal level, and the place that you're at speaks to growth that would typically indicate to me in the environment and the circle that we operate in quite a bit more step work than that,
Yeah.
So that's why I say oh shit. And plus you have 8 years and you're only on your 4 steps. So
Yeah.
what the fuck?
No, that is true.
yeah.
No, it is true, and I'm not going to discredit what you're saying, there was a lot of fear. And this is
Have you dropped your done 4 and 5, or you just got done with the writing?
Well, that's just it. So I did 4, and everybody's like, "That's also 5," until my sponsor hits me with 5, and I was like, "Wait, this is all shit that I should have done prior to 4."
No, see that word, that vocabulary you said, should. That doesn't exist, man.
All right.
Not in this. There is no should or should.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not sure that I followed what you were just saying. So you've done all the writing.
I've actually I went over my
He dropped his 4-step.
I dropped my
Okay.
4-step.
Got it.
He still has some writing on his 5th step to do.
Yeah.
That's just the way
Which
it is.
is minimal.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
like, I can do this now, right now, and it's like, no, just come back. I was right. I was like, I've done all this.
Just walk out the door and turn around back. Oh no, we need to get this out of the way. I'm done.
Yeah. That's kind of how it felt.
That's how the 5th step feels, man.
100%. And I got off track. Where were we?
Well, you're at your 4-step. It's done. What I was getting at, or leading up to, is what was the fear to keep you from 8 years to get to your first 4-step?
Good question, especially if it's taking this long.
I know there's other setbacks, but we're specifically talking about the fear.
I think it's a lifetime of learned behaviors of not letting people know who you are.
Yeah.
The welding boots.
Yeah. Like the lifetime of being a chameleon and not ever completely giving somebody or myself the truth.
You're afraid people are going to get to know you and not like you?
Fuck,
Yeah.
you might be afraid to get to know yourself.
100%. And what I mean by a lifetime of learned behaviors is because, I grew up in a family of not telling the truth. I grew up in a family of...
Your parents were addicts.
Yes, my parents are addicts, still suffering from the disease of addiction. And that learned behavior of like, we can't tell people what's going on. You know, when I went to school as a child, you know, the thing in our house was like, we have to look good on the outside. We have to look good on the outside.
No, I hear you. It's the same in a lot of households.
I remember that. I remember that process for me, man. I'm sitting here thinking about like I still am learning who I am. I don't think we ever stop learning who we are as we grow and evolve. But I remember that fear, man, and like
Of being found out?
or finding out, both.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like and partially not even knowing that I didn't know.
You don't know the things you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like it like, and there was a lot of, and it was like almost like some sort of fear that I couldn't title. Like it's there, but I don't know why I'm scared. Mm-hmm. And fuck, man, I remember that, dude. It's an interesting process. I aside from that, sorry to sidetrack whatever you're talking about. I just was drifting off into thoughts. You've maintained your sponsor locally here in California, but moved to the East Coast.
Yes.
So how has that had any effect on your willingness and or ability you feel to be productive in your step work?
No, it hasn't. And the reason I say that is because when I came into the rooms, it was told to me is find somebody that has what you want and that can offer you a solution in recovery. And I'll never forget when I first came in, the things that I wanted to know what it felt like to have like 30 years clean, you know, and eventually I have hope and belief that I'll make it there. But when it came to finding my sponsor, that's what I want out of recovery is I want a full like
Life.
a full life, yeah,
And everything that comes
just
with it.
fulfillment in recovery and spirituality, and in order for me to find that, I believe associating myself with people that have those things is important to me, and that is what my drive is, and so having a sponsor like Kevin has allowed me to see what is capable.
What about trust?
Well,
Before you ever asked.
So that explains why you chose Kevin as a sponsor. But the question was, how has it affected your step work, your communication, your consistency, your ability to produce like the results of the program through doing the work? Like, has that changed or shifted at all?
No,
Long distance.
no,
Yeah.
actually it hasn't. If anything, I feel that I'm in communication with Kevin.
About specifically steps and that and the process?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, you can answer that, Kevin. Am I in? If I
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, you know, because when you were living here, we were going out and doing activities and shooting the shit and coffee and eating and all that stuff. But more specifically, when you moved away, the focus has been more on like your program, your steps. How is your relationship doing? Is your support group going? Those are the topics that we kind of focus on.
That makes sense.
I agree.
The lack of regular companionship made more space for sponsee.
That's a great way to look at it. Is that when I call Kevin,
Yeah.
I now have a
More direct line.
direct of saying I need to call Kevin for X, Y, and Z.
Sure, yeah.
Or I'm stuck at this point in the step.
You're getting fed. You're getting fed by a support group that doesn't necessarily rely as much on him anymore.
100%.
Yeah.
101. Yeah, I could not agree. You put it eloquently.
So it's working good for you.
I believe it. Yeah, I think
good,
it's
man.
working good. I mean, it's got me to, working my steps more so than I have in the past. And yeah, I think it's going well.
Good, man. The reason I ask is like I'm a feelings person. Like I'm like I need to like
I'm sorry. You're what?
like energy. I think a lot. I'm a thinking motherfucker, but I like in encounters or engaging with somebody, it's hard for me to. I could see myself not wanting to participate as much because I'm not in the room with the person. Like a lot of what because I'm a thinking person.
Yeah.
I'm analyzing body language, the tone of their voice, the energy that I'm feeling when I'm around them. I'm doing math problems the whole time, you know?
All right. I got you.
Yeah. And you know, what's funny is that like, I was pretty adamant about dropping my fourth step in person. You know, no matter what, the work is with me.
Did you do it here when you came this time to visit?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. It's fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It is
did it
fresh.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Do you feel like a little baby?
No, and it's not that. So it was very cathartic.
I felt brand new after I did my first one.
It was very cathartic, but I'd been doing so much outside help over the last couple of years that I was I felt like I was putting down what has already been the groundwork in which I've already laid over the last 2 years with therapy and outside help. And
that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
And so when I put it down, it was cathartic in the sense that like,
can you define cathartic for me?
Cathartic is like that release of emotion for me. Like it's that release of like the energy that I'm trying to let go of.
So maybe therapeutic could be interchangeable.
Therapeutic.
Just to be clear, most people that we've encountered in the rooms that have done therapy, that came after step work.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to jump on that.
Yeah. Like,
so
that's where I think what I was saying, like based on how you operate in the circle of people that we associate with, I would have assumed you've done more step work, but if you're doing therapy, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, that was pretty recent too, right?
Yeah.
Therapy started for me about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it has been so rewarding. You know, I did a lot of deep trauma therapy, EMDR, really looking at the things that I was hiding, secrets that I didn't even know were secrets.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I mean, we talked about that, but the EMDR, was that the rapid eye movement?
So this one was feel. So I put these two like pulsating, like they were almost like baton sticks.
Vibrators.
Yeah, they really were like two little dildos. And
you guys really didn't need to go there.
Josh did.
Since nobody can see it, Kevin just gave me a mean ass side eye.
So anyways, he puts these two things and I close my eyes and it's completely randomized, and he'll ask you, or he asked me some questions, and after about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm in a blackout state. Like,
so I'm just curious at the modality of the EMDR. Did you do the same thing?
I did it with headphones. And sound would bounce back and forth from left to right.
Oh, yeah. We know who with, too.
Yes,
yeah.
correct.
So I did the same one as Josh.
Okay.
And it was bilateral sound.
yeah.
And so...
It was great.
Yeah, and it was life-changing for me. Was it life-changing?
100.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I cannot... There were things that came out in this, like...
State.
Yeah, the state, it's like you're awake, but I'm blacked out, like, and I'm starting to say things, and he's jotting all the notes down, and then, and I did this for about 8 weeks, every week, because just getting it all out there, and
it's fun to hold dildos.
Yeah, dude, I was so, like, by the end of it, I was just like, never mind, let's not go there. Anyways, so
couldn't help it.
He's 12, by the way.
No, but through all this, through those, like, because we had worked together for about 6 months in just talk therapy.
Right, yeah.
To the point where he was like, okay, I think you're ready for this.
So they tie that into
so
the
tie it
step
all
work.
in, and, you know, the one thing that through therapy and through step work that I have learned is being mindful. Just being mindful of not causing harm to myself and not causing harm to others.
Yeah.
Sounds like a motto that I kind of practice.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a question. Did you do any like guided meditations through that process? Is that kind of like the basis of what you were doing in that blackout state, like walking through certain things and changing your experience through like kind of talking yourself through them from the point of like where you're at now to where you were when you went through it, that kind of thing?
So what's crazy is my experience with EMDR. He would start with being like, all right, what's your earliest childhood memory? And I remember that early childhood memory of being in a preschool and meeting a friend that and it's gonna sound convoluted, but anyways, that image, and I'm closing my eyes right now to remember that image, but that image of being in preschool and the friend that I met led me to realizing that friend, his parents also smoked crack, and my parents ended up smoking crack with his parents, and seeing that relationship with that friend was also one of the first friends I ever got high with, and the first friend that ever introduced me to smoking weed or smoking oxys, and that all started in preschool. And through EMDR, I watched the evolution of that relationship between his parents and my parents and me and him and him introducing me to some things that I always told myself I would never do because my parents are drug addicts.
So before therapy, then you never connected the track.
Never. I never connected that track.
So down the basics is that the outside help from the program greatly improved your life.
It was as if there was like a curtain, and therapy allowed me to see beyond the curtain.
Pulled the curtain.
I think I got fucking superpowers from mine, dude.
Yeah.
100%. Like, it taught me about being compassionate towards my parents.
Cool.
It taught me about how to be compassionate to those that truly probably never intended harm on me, although it may have caused harm in my life. And it just allowed me to see the truth in a way that I'd always try to manipulate into being the way I perceived it, but instead it was just the truth.
Lindsey, when you first got clean, what was that big fear that you had?
The fear that I had when I got clean was that it wasn't going to last, just like everything else in my life, you know.
Like relapse?
Relapse, not following through. My story in general, my life has been a revolving door of giving up. When I was young, before the age of 15, I moved like 20 times. I never stayed somewhere longer than 6 months to a year. All of our leases were always like year-long leases, and we'd always have to move. And that kind of energy, that kind of mentality had carried with me, for 30 plus years.
Was that fear? Did you, like, big picture, was it fear of failure?
I don't know if it was fear of failure, more so just fear of it not lasting. Like, I don't know if it was failure. I've never, up until my recovery, I had never experienced something consistently.
Yeah, history told you that you were going to fuck it up.
Yeah, history told me that even if it wasn't me fucking it up, I wasn't going to have it after some time. Whether I lost that thing or if I fucked that thing up.
Yeah.
I have never been able to do something for like over a year.
So that your biggest fear when you first got clean is that you weren't going to be able to keep this.
It wasn't going to last.
Yeah.
Like, I just truly believed that it was going to be another chapter in my book, if you will.
Oh, that's sad.
Turned out to be a pretty long chapter.
And you don't believe that today?
No. Actually, today I have I've kind of broke that generational curse, if you will, of, being in a marriage longer than my parents had been married.
A key thing here, a healthy relationship.
Yeah, healthy, active marriage and relationship. And, I work my program. She works her program. She's involved in Nar-Anon, as obviously I'm involved with Narcotics Anonymous. I have a job that I've had for almost 7 years. And, I had never, before recovery, I'd never held a job for longer than 6 months. And I have a support group that has lasted the entire 8+ years I've been clean.
That's nice.
So I'm really just.
What's your biggest fear now?
My biggest fear now is losing it. I think that's going to be my fear for the rest of my life. Is that
Keep you on your toes.
it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me in the program. It keeps me involved.
No, we call that a healthy fear.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
And now that I've passed that mark, that 1 year mark where everything fails or everybody leaves me, after surpassing that, everything else is like
Bonus round.
and it's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something that I've never experienced, and every day from here on forward is a day that I have not experienced.
Yeah. When you were getting loaded, there was a lot of consequences. Have any of those consequences carried over into recovery?
Mentally or physically? Explain.
Any of that? Like some people,
Yes.
some people have to go and do, another term in jail or whatever, even clean. Some people have physical ailments that happened.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you said physical ailments. I have some physical things, it wasn't until I was in recovery that I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Couple autoimmune diseases. I suffer from chronic kidney stones. I've passed probably 20 plus kidney stones in my life, probably closer to 30. And that's a result of.
You ever had to get any of them like blasted with sound to break them up? They're too big.
Multiple times. I've had them take we don't have to get into the details.
Is that consequences of getting loaded?
I think it was hereditary when it started, and I believe that it compounded during my use, because when I was using it, I didn't think about getting hydrated. I didn't think about drinking water.
Oh, I gotcha.
I ate like shit. Like my meals consisted of anything I could steal from 7-Eleven.
Hot Pockets.
Top ramen.
Ice cream that they don't make anymore.
Ice cream that they don't make or that store didn't have. But yeah, healthy. The one thing that recently in my life I've been able to dive more into the deep end with is not just a sense of health and fitness and diet, but an all encompassing health aspect in my life that I never explored. I was growing up and all the way up until, just 4 or 5 years ago, I used to use the emergency room or urgent care like it was my primary care physician. I only went to the doctor when things were wrong.
Yeah.
I never had no
preemptive.
No preemptive, but I never had a medical record that a doctor could be all right, well, since the last time we saw you, it was always a different doctor. It's always been the ER.
That's all that sounds like to me is that you, instead of just having an idea of I'm going to try this or I'm going to do this, your well-being became a lifestyle.
100%. And I'm not a fitness guru by any means, but there are practices in my life today that I never imagined. The same idea is that I never imagined that I would have 8 years clean.
Right.
I now have some practices in my life that I never thought I would do, and one of which is cold plunging. Like,
Dude, it's so good.
cold plunging has become the quintessential piece of my life
good word
today.
drop.
Hey,
Cold plunging and quintessential, dude. We're on a good track right now.
I
Like,
could just see you in a cold plunge hitting your vape. Like, what a oxy kind of.
Talking about how quintessential it is.
no, I don't have, dude. No, but it really has become this piece of my life that has been so rewarding and so therapeutic.
Are you doing sauna? Are you doing sauna as well?
I have not done sauna yet.
Okay.
I'm only cold plunging, and it has been such a mental clarity. Like, I don't.
Oh, there's so many different things that happen aside from the physical effects that it has on you. You have to beat it every day when you do it.
Yeah.
And that in itself makes the tasks from the day, they seem remedial because you already whooped that. And it's not easy
No,
to get into 35, 40 degree water and stay there and fight. Like your brain's like, you need to get out, you need to get out, you need to get out over and over and over again. And you beat it, you know?
I'm currently, I remember I started off at like 50, 57 degrees. And now I'm at like consistently 36, 37. It's winter in New Hampshire, so I don't have to put ice in it.
Yeah.
It just stays at 37 degrees.
You got like a tub in your backyard or something?
In my garage. It was in my backyard, but then it just became a brick of ice once the temperatures actually dropped. So having it in my garage, which is insulated, keeps it just at 37 degrees perfectly.
Just warm enough to not freeze.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so little off track, but that's nice to know about your cold plunge.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's right on time, Kevin.
I mean, honestly, that's my time to meditate.
No, it's good.
I know it sounds like it's just this thing, but that's where I meditate. That's where I talk to my higher power. That's where,
dude, shit happens when you're in a cold plunge.
100%. 100%.
You should put one here, Kevin.
No, I'm glad you tied it into your process when you do that, because it just seemed like we're talking about promoting cold plunging.
No, I mean, that's part of the lifestyle thing, you know?
Yeah. And it has been something that is my time to meditate. Cool. That's my time to be with my higher power. That is my time to, like, if, I have 5 to 8 minutes, depending on the day, where I am going to do everything I can to not think about being freezing fucking cold.
Right on. So another question about when you, in early recovery, did you bring any of that shame and guilt? The shame and guilt that had a part of you getting loaded, did any of that carry over into recovery? Like, yes. Did you have shame and guilt about how you grew up? Shame and guilt about some of the stuff that you did?
I mean, is there anybody that doesn't? Like, am I alone here? Because I will say, I brought in a lot of shame and guilt because throughout my life, I have taken many of roads, some of which led into beautiful aspects. Early in my 20s, I was involved with leading youth groups and going to college and being, a young man in a society of helping others and being of service and then, also smoking fentanyl, the shame and guilt, was I knew what I was capable of as far as having a good heart and having a good soul and being compassionate towards others and always wanting to lead a life that was of service. But also, on the flip side of that, being broken, being ashamed, being a drug addict, being suffering from this thing that we call a disease of addiction, but also knowing that deep down, I'm not a bad person.
No, but when you first started getting loaded, was there shame and guilt prior to first getting loaded that led you there? Did you have any correlation between your early childhood and the reasons why you started numbing?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I always told myself there were those instances like I never will because of my parents. Mm-hmm. This is a generational curse. I'll never do that thing. I don't want to get high. And then, I got introduced. My first drug wasn't like smoking weed or drinking. My first drug was drinking a bottle of Demerol. Like that was the first time.
Demerol cough syrup?
Yeah, like it was liquid codeine.
Yeah.
And
Like a whole bottle?
Me and my buddy split a whole bottle in seventh grade. I remember
Back in the day, it was pretty heavily medicated.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I was fucked up. Like seventh grade, my buddy's like, "Hey, man,
You're talking about like a whole pint."
yeah, like the OG lean, pretty much.
Yeah,
and he goes, "Hey, man, my mom just got her wisdom teeth taken out, and I took this from her purse. You want to try it?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Like, and school's still going on. It was at lunch. I remember going into class after lunch, and I was just fucked up on the nod. Everything slowed down, and in that moment, I felt, wow.
And that numbed the shame and guilt that you were carrying around?
It numbed everything. Mm-hmm. I understood why my parents were addicts at that point. I understood that it only takes this.
Did you have those thoughts, or did you just enjoy the feeling? Did you actually put it all together?
I put it all together after I wasn't high.
Yeah.
Like I really remember that first time being like, oh, this is why people get high. Because before that, I didn't know what being outside your mind felt like. I didn't know that there was truly this feeling, this physical thing that happened to your body when you got high.
You didn't have any other release before that? Like for me, I read books.
No, I didn't know. Like,
that's good.
And then drugs were introduced, and I was like, "Oh, this is the solution
to shut those voices out."
Yeah, like whether it's voices or that
feeling.
inner monologue of like not having friends or not being part of,
Gotcha.
and so drugs became my friend.
Yeah.
Like drugs became that thing that where everybody else leaves me in my life, this is going to stick around.
What about the fear that you carried over? Does it affect relationships, like early recovery or today? Do you still have any of that fear of some kind?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest fear, it all comes down to it not lasting.
What about your interaction in relationships? Did it affect that?
Give me an example so I understand what you're asking.
Like for me, if I had, especially in early recovery, I still suffer from high social anxiety, but in early recovery, I would, like you talked about the fear of them getting to know me.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that still carry today?
So today, not so much, and I was talking to a friend just a few days ago. Early on in recovery, I still had this facade that status was a necessity for my survival. Status in the sense that like I need to share my resume, my life experience as a marker to show I am worthy. So the better I can make my resume look, the more you will accept me.
I'm going through that. Like last year, I've started leaving out specific details about what and maybe accolades or whatever, like things that I have going on in my life. Like I try to keep it more and more vague because like that stuff isn't important.
100%.
It's not important. Like I don't need to talk about what I'm doing, the specifics of what I'm doing, the money I am or I'm not making, or the trip I'm going on. Like I don't need that stuff. Doesn't have to. I can relate to that.
This whole conversation reminds me of the work in combating ego and false pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very true. And the more time that I've had, you know, in the rooms, the more I've learned that less is more. Humility is and I guess suppressing the ego and pride. Mm-hmm. The more I suppress the ego and pride, the more my life speaks for itself.
I just want to clarify false pride.
Okay,
You have clean time, right?
Yeah. So there are things I'm proud of, yes.
Yeah.
But in what we are talking about, there's
Exactly.
a lot of ego there, and
A lot of ego and false pride.
And it's not even ego, but it's even pretending to have an ego. That's why I build the resume. That's why it's pretending that I'm proud of something. It's pretending that I have an ego, but deep down inside, it is more or less like, I hope that I can meet society's standard of what success looks like. And I'm going to use this as an example. And just last night, we're at a meeting, newcomer shares, and I was reminded that when a newcomer is new, the only thing they have to talk about is the streets.
The mess.
Is the mess. Is that resume, if you will, like I carry a gun or I shoot dope in my neck and as somebody with some clean time,
I smoke fentanyl and play Magic.
Yeah, like on some newcomer shit. That is the type of things that we would speak about, but that's all they know. And sometimes it's so easy once you earn some time and once you stick around long enough, it's easy to be like, come on, man, let's hear the message, let's hear the solution. But yesterday I was reminded that's all that person knows.
That's all we do.
And when people call that type of person out, being like, oh, we don't want to hear that. And I'm not saying that happened last night, but I've been in meetings where people are like, we don't want to hear that. I was reminded yesterday, what the fuck else is he supposed to share about?
Yeah, we often relate to, there's a saying, when we watch them come in the rooms with arrows sticking out of their ass, we know it still doesn't work out there.
Yeah, and it's always a reminder for me. Like that's why, you know, I personally, there's times where I'll go to a meeting even when I don't want to, and it's because there might be a newcomer there.
That's a good point.
You know, there might be somebody that I get to hear that mess, and then outside of the parking lot, when they say, "How did you do it?" I can share a message without the mess. I can share the recovery of how I got to where they are, because that's what people did to me. They hung out with me outside the parking lot after the meeting for an hour or two and just got to know me.
Yeah.
And now that's what was taught to me. So it's only fair that I keep passing that torch.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma.
Or abuse, huh?
Yeah, something that's at least one example of something that stands out.
And maybe had an effect on your decision, or maybe it was even so unconscious that you were getting loaded that you've done work and then you look back now and go, oh, this played a part in me getting loaded.
I just want to hear something fucked up that happened to you when you were a small person.
Okay.
If you're willing to share.
Yeah. There's a couple things. Here's something I didn't put in my 4-step that I didn't.
Which just happened yesterday, by the way. Again.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously,
I'm all
great,
ears.
dude.
So my mother, growing up, she'd
We're working a 4-step right now. It's actually happening right now.
Yeah, she'd been in and out of rehabs, and I'll never forget. My parents had like cheated on each other in my childhood, and there was a lot of like sleeping around, if you will. And I'll never forget calling everywhere looking for my mom. You know, I called the local bar. I to this day I still have the bar number memorized. It's not even a bar anymore. And I remember calling my aunt. I was calling people being like, have you seen my mom? Do you know where my mom is? And I remember when I called my aunt, she was like, yeah, I think she might be, and she's very vague. So I remember walking from my house to my aunt's house. That was about a mile away. And I walk upstairs and I see my mom and another man smoking crack. And I'll never forget.
Not your dad.
Not my dad.
Obviously.
And just another man. And I go upstairs and this dude is just like sweaty and like half naked, just wearing his boxers. My mom sitting there like half clothed, and I just walk in and you could tell that they'd been whipping crack on the little Bunsen burner thing over here, and my mom was like just sitting there rolling the pipe, and I walk upstairs and I go, what the fuck? And I'll never forget. I go, Mom, either you quit doing drugs or I'm going to kill myself. And I was like, I don't want to fucking live with a mom that smokes crack. Like, I can't believe you're doing this to me and to me and my brother. And can't you just quit smoking crack and just go to rehab again? And I remember, and all she said, because I told her, I was like, either you quit smoking crack or I'm going to kill myself. And her response was, get out.
There's your answer.
And I was like, I just remember feeling so broken and feeling like my mom was choosing crack over me. And I thought, because, you know, I grew up just in this life of manipulation, I thought I could cry my way to a solution for my mom. I thought I could just be, if I showed her how, probably 10.
So you're 10 years old, trying to manipulate your mom into giving up, and you're trying to fight her addiction?
Yeah, like I thought that if I was hurt enough,
yeah, she
would quit. I thought that if she was any sort of mom, she would see how what she's doing to her children and stop immediately. I thought it was going to be that easy.
Crack is a powerful drug.
Oh yeah, crack doesn't. Yeah,
dude, that is heavy.
But that's a situation.
Some fucking serious abandonment issues from that one.
I was thinking that it has that had effects on relationships at all?
Yeah, it has. You know, even in marriage, I still catch myself using that. If you're not willing to stop the thing that I want you to stop doing, then I'm not good enough.
Then you don't.
I'm not worthy. Like, you don't love me. If you can't stop doing this, then you don't love me. And I've had to work through that. You know.
Well, I like you use the word catch, right? So you acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And you were able to do something about it.
Anytime I feel really connected to somebody, whether it's platonic, romantic, it doesn't matter the type of relationship it is. Like, if I get to a deeper level of connection with that person, all the little, yeah, right, they're going to fucking hurt you. All these little fucking evil ass thoughts start like just creeping up the back of my head, dude. And I can literally sit there and just watch them just attack me. I'm like,
and if it doesn't meet my expectations, then you don't really love me.
Yeah.
Like, if it doesn't meet my expectations, then you are failing as a friend or somebody in a relationship at all. Yeah. Like, any type of intimacy.
You're not good enough. It's not real.
Yep.
And we've had that conversation that it's like all that is that learned behavior that's in the filing cabinet in the back of your head, and it gets pulled out. Anytime your addict wants to really mess with you, your addiction, it's in your head.
Yeah.
It's always in your head.
I call it the Rolodex. The Rolodex always goes to what it knows.
Yeah. It's cool to be able to separate from it, though. You know, after so long, you see it so many times, you're like, nah, I know what this is.
You're not getting me today, Satan.
Not today. Yeah, but you know, the other thing is when the disease starts showing up in ways that it might be new.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
for
It
sure.
might take some time for you to realize it's the disease.
Recognize.
You
yeah.
know, it might take some time that you might think you just have a new hobby. You might think you just have a new interest until all of a sudden you find yourself in that interest obsessing daily, you know, like
Yep.
it could be binge watching a fucking TV show. And all of a sudden I'm like, I just want to disconnect. And before you know it, 3 weeks have gone by of doing this every single day. And this is my story. This is my experience, that there are times where I will get so into like binge watching television that after like 3 weeks, I'm like, wait, I've binge watched for 4 hours every single night.
Done that.
That I'm like only instead of 8 hours of sleep, I'm cutting my sleep down to 5 hours, and
Binge watching television, video games.
never realized that the disease
Ordering
was.
side by side parts.
Yeah.
Wait.
Spending money, shopping.
Do you have a side by side?
I do.
Ooh, nice.
Don't get them started.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get tires on the way home.
Hey. Let's get back to this. Wait, what about a reservation? Like when you were gonna get clean, going into like stopping getting loaded, did you have go, if this happens, I'm gonna get loaded?
Early, yes. Early on.
What'd that look like?
What were the reservations? Yeah. It was if my wife left me. It was things that were if my support group were to relapse, I'd probably relapse. Or if my wife left me, I'd probably relapse.
Is that still true today?
Not at all. Not at all. And the reason I know it's not true is because those things have been presented to me in my life.
Yeah.
You know, those things of watching people get another white key tag and I didn't pick up. A couple years ago, I was in a dark place, found an addiction in video games that was very unhealthy. It was during COVID and I used my autoimmune disease as an excuse to not leave the house. And I found myself playing video games like 8 hours a day. And to the point where my wife just watched me, with clean time, pretty much give up on myself in every aspect. Health, spirituality, the physical, the spiritual, the mental health. It all just for about 2 years just got to this dark place.
It's a long time. And
being that chameleon that I am, I would show up to an NA meeting once a week and tell people like, this, or on Zoom, when it was in COVID, it would be like, yeah, things are good. I remember I'd play video games with being on an NA meeting on Zoom with the camera off, but playing video games just to show people that I'm showing up, just to show people that I'm here. And I did it so well that people would be like, oh yeah, I see Lindsey on Zoom every week. But the entire time I'm sitting in a dark room, lights off, video games. And my wife finally was like, I want a divorce. And I was like, what the fuck? And my ego, that false pride, came in and was like, do you know what I provide for you? Look at the job I have that has bought all the things that we have. And at first that's what came and came into the conversation. And my wife was like, I don't give a fuck about that.
That sounds really bad now, huh, when you say it?
Yeah.
Look at what I do for you.
Yeah, and she was like, I don't care. You don't love yourself. And it wasn't that she didn't love me anymore. She realized that she couldn't love somebody that couldn't love themselves. And so, I didn't relapse over that.
Yeah, so
Instead,
you have history that you can make it through without getting loaded.
100%.
And you've seen other people like death and...
I've gone to funerals, I've seen people relapse. I've been presented with those things that I once saw as a reservation. And instead of pulling back, my solution for me has been to jump in.
Yeah.
You know, like when that was presented to me with my wife, that's when I started going to therapy. That's when I actually started going to a doctor as a primary care physician that wasn't urgent care, that I started doing some outside help and taking control of my life, taking control of my health in a way that it brought me as I started working on myself and being focused internally, it actually brought about something beautiful in my marriage.
You're going to make me tear up.
And it actually brought something that showed me a new sense of gratitude that I have never experienced.
Dude, I love that.
And that outside help, along with my support system in Narcotics Anonymous, has allowed me to move to a place like New Hampshire and know what it feels like and looks like to dive into the deep end immediately. And that means finding a support group and finding, you know, a few close other men to share life with, you know, get involved with. And, you know, I'm currently, you know, heavily involved in NA in a way that I had never been involved previously.
So you're at a point now where we're looking at your assets, you know, like there was a lot of this stuff that we just talked about, and the story that you just said, just like, I feel so good about your journey where you're at now. And what about the assets that you share with others today?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think it's hard to explain my assets without sharing my defects, because I didn't have a lot of assets coming in, or I didn't feel like I had a lot of assets coming in.
I'll tell you one, and I think we had a conversation about this, but like humor, first used humor as a means to cover up emotion.
Yeah.
Right. And hide your feelings and keep people at a distance. And now today you're just actually fucking funny.
Funny looking, I mean? But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you might at times use humor to cover up or deflect.
Yeah. But,
you know, when we're having just rando conversations, you're a pretty fucking funny guy.
Yeah. And, you know, today I look at my assets as things that I didn't know I was capable of previously. So when I first came in, I didn't know how to care. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to be compassionate. You know, I've always understood empathetic. Like, that is something that I believe that I've carried in my life, is having empathy and understanding for other people's situations just because of where I come from. But through recovery, I've learned what it's like to have an asset and to hang on to it.
What's your favorite asset?
I believe empathy. I think that is my favorite because it's something that has been natural in my life, even through the chaos, even through the pain, even through the shortcomings and I've always tried to see the perspective and understanding of another human being and what that might be. And today with a sense of a higher power and through working, you know, some steps and having a support group that has taught me to calibrate my assets in such a way that when I'm practicing spiritual principles, I can actually lean into them and acknowledge that I'm practicing a spiritual principle right now.
So empathy?
Empathy.
So, Josh, what's your favorite asset that you have? I'm just curious because we don't talk about our assets very often.
I would probably say determination, probably.
I see that in you, 100%.
Yeah, determination.
That's your favorite?
Yeah. I mean, it's the one I bank on the most, probably.
Yeah.
Like, just I'm gonna get through this. Like, I can see the end, and I'm getting there.
You know what's interesting is because my wife, she would say that her favorite asset of yours is your humor.
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty funny.
Yeah, see? And you're not saying that egotistically. We just like to have fun.
Yeah, even if I don't think it, I've got enough people that tell me all the time that I just know that that's something
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You have a good sense of humor.
Thanks.
What about you, Kevin?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nuh-uh. Nope. You're not passing.
Oh, no, we have to get on to the next
No
question.
bullshit.
I don't know. Honestly, when I stop and take a look, and if I do the 2-foot drop and I go into my heart and I, try to feel about myself, I genuinely believe that I'm just a nice guy.
I agree. I could not agree more.
I just try to, and we've talked about this, my motto, like I try to wake up in the morning, and I tell myself to cause no harm to myself and others throughout the day. Right?
Yeah.
I try to walk through the day.
I think
and cause no harm.
think the word for that would be compassionate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Compassionate, or I think my favorite asset that you have from my perspective is probably peace, or being more often than not very centered.
Wow,
Peace.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I strive for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, and that's what I was saying.
It's very evident.
When you acknowledge that you are practicing a spiritual principle, you're able to go like harder into it. You're able to, like, once you're able to acknowledge your assets and acknowledge the spiritual principle around that asset, I believe that mindfulness of saying, I am practicing this asset right now, and I'm going to try to continue that throughout my day.
Yeah.
Dude, it allows you to be focused on the asset. It allows you to be like, I am going to be more compassionate, or I am going to make sure people are smiling and laughing if it's humor, or I'm going to make sure that if it's determination, then I am going to follow my calendar today. I'm going to make sure I follow through on my commitments. And that is the thing that recovery has taught me, is that if I want to practice that spiritual principle, then mindfulness comes first, because once you have the mindfulness and the know-how to practice that, the rest becomes like second nature of just doing the work.
Well, I mean, I think that's the direct route to becoming like what we strive for in recovery.
Like our bestest selves.
Yeah. Bestest. I just want to be my bestest version.
I just want to be my bestest version.
I have this thought of,
you're thinking.
yeah, it is actually pretty funny, because we will talk about each other, and if I'm being approached or Josh says, you're so peaceful, I'm like, well, if you really knew,
Yeah.
right, the imposter syndrome, which I believe that I have achieved a sense of peace in my life, right, and I feel peaceful, but every once in a while
You're human.
I'm human, and in my head, this is important for me because it stays there, right? In my head, I'm like, I wonder how hard I would have to hit him to break every bone in his face. That's just a random thought. Maybe he's being an asshole or whatever, but that, stuff like that rolls through my head every once in a while. You're saying human, I'm not like, well, what the hell am I doing? Why am I thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And then I get the baseball bat and I'm like beating myself up for thinking that way, and then I have to remember that I'm just human, and if these thoughts stay in my head, right, it's not a shortcoming.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not acting
You're not
out.
acting on it.
You're not acting on
and
it.
And things like that probably seem really loud to you and very apparent, because if you look at the flip side of your coin, you exist in an area that you offer yourself peace and compassion and understanding to yourself and everybody around you. And so when something outside of that creeps in, it's like, whoa, what the fuck is that?
100%.
That's a good point.
I'm
100%.
Something interrupts this thing that you've worked so hard to build. It's very like blaringly apparent,
I've never thought of that.
It's like the difference, like here's a way to say it. So you practice throwing a ball. And let's say your spiritual asset is throwing that ball with your right hand, and you start being able to like add spin to it, and you can start throwing the curve ball or the fast ball. And then when you get into something that's not your asset or not spiritually sound, it's like throwing a ball with your left hand. Like all of a sudden it's all weird. It feels uncomfortable. And the reason I use that analogy is because the longer time I've had clean, the more I've been able to perfect the way I throw the ball, the way to put it in, like if it's empathy, to practice active listening, not just to understand somebody, but to put into different techniques of that asset. If it's determination, you learn different things that help you continue that asset. If it's kindness, you learn that what you would consider kind early on, you actually have allowed yourself to be like, you know what, maybe that does cause harm, even though I originally thought it was kind.
Yeah, I mean that's the evolution of a human, especially the people that we try to do. Like that's we're growing.
And then when you're not
using my left
kind,
hand and throwing a ball.
well, and that's just it. And when you're not kind, or if you start giving up on your determination, or if I stop being empathetic, it's like throwing the left hand. It's like, oh, that's uncomfortable now. Like I can't do it. Like,
do you ever? Just another question. Do you ever like suffer from jealousy or envy or something that kind of tweaks with you?
no, honestly, that is something that I've had to ask myself is a jealousy. Early on, maybe, like in that the jealousy was like they have more clean time. Like somehow it's like, oh, that person said no to drugs more than I did, and now I'm jealous because it happened. But no, my life today is, I believe that success breeds success. I believe that you are for me personally, I believe that you are a product of your environment.
Okay.
And I truly believe that my higher power is conspiring for me and not against me. And so when I see people succeed, I pour into that.
What about I'm glad you said something about your higher power, because we're not in a meeting and we don't have any rules. And so what does that look like for you?
My higher power to me is
Just saying.
like the group conscience, the community as a whole is my
The
higher.
recovery community, or just in general, like people.
It is more prevalent within the recovery community.
Prevalent.
Prevalent.
Words.
It's
Or yeah.
it is more. It shows up more often in the
There we
recovery
go.
community, but I truly believe that the group as a whole has my best interest. I believe that there's always going to be an asshole, that one off that throws a stick in the spokes and tries to be like, you should just smoke crack. But the group as a whole is like, don't smoke crack. That's a fucking horrible idea. Don't do that. And so.
Did it always look like that?
No. I went to Bible college. I went to a college in Southern California where I learned how to plant a church, and I quickly, it was at Bible, I'll just put it this way, for Bible college in that chapter of my life, it was during that chapter where I smoked meth for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like a girl cheated on me, and all of a sudden I was like, fuck it. There is no God.
That's pretty heavy, because at some point you're believing that you have a path.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I'm down here like on scholarship, going to college, doing my thing, playing rugby, went to Cal State for business.
But you're looking at like religion and church as a path.
As a path. And then,
next thing you know,
the disease just
Dad's
creeps
a
up.
millionaire.
Yeah. Like just the disease creeps up in the most unsuspecting places.
And you don't follow church or religion.
I do not. That time in my life taught me the difference between religion and spirituality.
Let me ask you this. When you heard in our literature for the first time that you can choose your own God or your own higher power or your own focus, whatever you want to call that, did that give you some freedom?
Yeah, because my very first higher power when I first got clean,
Yeah.
it was a motto, and it was that of which gives me peace without substance.
I almost thought you were going to say that your first higher power was a female.
No. The first physical higher power that I went through this, like, I couldn't
we all did.
believe in like a God, like of any understanding. So, first it was a motto, that of which gives me peace without substance. And then it became like the physical side was the image of playing golf at like 5 a.m. when the sun is rising and you're on the fairway and like there's like dew on the grass. I got into golf pretty heavily when I first got clean, and there was a moment after having like a year and a half clean that I went golfing in the morning, and it was just by myself, and the peace of like the birds chirping and the dew on the grass, and I was by myself. And I remember for like a solid year, I was like, my higher power is golf at 5:30 in the morning.
That your description of the landscape, doesn't that sound like your safe space in trauma therapy?
Yeah. I mean, just my safe space was a flat rock by the river, like slightly shaded, scattered light in the woods.
Peace.
Yeah.
Just
with a moose.
Yeah. Like, and there's that piece of nature. And then as I've developed in my recovery, my higher power has also developed and evolved. And right alongside with me, to the point where I've learned that if I pay attention to the group conscience, I have been proven time and time again that it has never steered me in the wrong direction.
I guess the important thing would be for you that to use the group conscience, right? Because, if we make our own decisions without checking in with the higher power, in your case, the group conscience, then we definitely make poor choices.
100%. 100%. And
well, cool, man. I think we're going to wrap this up.
Wrap.
Lindsey, thank you very much. I'm glad you were out here so we get to have this time together.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it was good to catch up with you.
Oh, I'm stoked to be here. Always fun hanging out with you guys. And,
nice.
I got to be honest. I hope that you guys just continue doing this. It's been incredible to listen to your guys' episodes, to see that you guys are doing your thing and making it happen, and just watching that little spark of an idea like a year and a half ago come to fruition is absolutely an incredible journey to watch.
We have a goal.
Do we? What's the goal? Tell me.
We're gonna at some point we're gonna make this mobile. We talked about that.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna travel.
I love it.
And add cameras.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We're gonna add I'm gonna add cameras. Kevin's gonna fight me about it.
There's a thing about anonymous, but I don't. Whatever. We'll work that out. I'm gonna have just one camera on.
Just Josh.
Just Josh. Yeah.
The feedback that I seem to get the most so far is like, I'm not sure if it's because I know you guys or not, but those podcasts are really fucking good.
Yeah, I hope they are.
Yeah.
I hope this one's a banger. Like I hope this one is like, dude. But
that was the best one yet.
That was the best one yet.
Yeah. Bang bang.
Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you both having me.
All right.
Yeah, love you guys.
Later,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Often you will hear addicts referring to a specific 12-step program or rehab. These are personal stories. We do not represent any of the programs.